Hello everyone, for this video, we'll talk about one very important question that I'm sure you can relate with if you're into collecting. And that is, how do you store them properly? In this case, I'll be sharing with you guys my practices and things that I use. So if you have other methods of storing them, please do share them in the comments below. And let's begin. First and cheapest way to store your Heroclix figures is to use the actual booster boxes. Like for this set, X-Men the Animated Series, especially since it has a colossal figure which is somewhat hard to store, the good thing or the advantage is that if you keep the booster boxes, then you also get to keep the plastic that holds your figure, which again would make storing and protecting the figures easier. Additionally, if you use the boxes, this would mean that you can also organize them based on the set that they're from. So meaning this particular box, I use it to store all my extra X-Men the Animated Series figures, okay, both colossal and minifigures. So that way you can be organized, and so that when you look for your figures, you would just have to look for the boxes. On the other hand, the disadvantage would be, of course, since it's a carton, then it's not as durable and it can deteriorate over time. As I mentioned, this is the most natural, the cheapest, but not too dependable, maybe to store your common, uncommon figures, but definitely for your superiors and chases, you might want to find another method. The second way you can store your Heroclix figures is to use a container like this one. So this one, I use it before for my Mage Knight figures, but since I dispose of them, I now use it for my Heroclix figures. So what's good about this particular way of storing your Heroclix is that there are dividers. So you can see, and these are removable, adjustable dividers. And it's easy for you to organize figures. Ideally, I would put one figure per cell, or if it's a common figure, meaning if there's no space, then I can put one whole team. Like this one is the X Factor, all the X Factor figures, or this one, two versions of the same character inside one cell. So this is actually a good way to store your Heroclix figures. Okay, so you can see if you need to store big figures, okay, you can adjust it, and you can also individually store them. And of course, since it has a cover, one shot, then you basically dust proof your figures. So I use this especially if I store figures that I will put in the cabinet, because the major disadvantage of this particular figure is that it's only good for storage, but obviously figures you put here you won't be able to display them. So if you want to keep your figure safe, and if you want to, but you don't want to display them, then this is a good option for you. Another disadvantage is that this is somewhat hard to get by. Here in the Philippines, I've been going around stores, and very rarely that I see this particular display case. The third way I store my Heroclix figures is using this particular acrylic display case. So this display case, its advantage is that since it's acrylic, then it's 100% clear. So you can clearly see the figures, and aside from that, this particular version of acrylic display case is stackable. So meaning depending on the space that you have, you can just make a row of them, or if you don't have too much length but have height, then you can stack them together uh, with two or more of these display cases. So that's something really neat, and this is something I use if I want to display it to a very prominent place in my home. So that's the advantages. The disadvantage, of course, is it's only limited to 6 figures per row of, or per display case, and it's limited by the height of figure that it can fit through. And of course, since this is an open space, it means that over time it will accumulate dust. So you have to clean your collection once in a while to make sure that no dust accumulates, especially for your white figures. Another acrylic display that I use is this one. So for me, this is the best type of case because it gets the benefit of being an acrylic, meaning it's 100% clear all throughout, and the benefit of being dust proof because it's totally sealed. So I use this particular display case exclusively to figures that I treasure the most. So you can see here we have the Phoenix 5 on the top display, and on the bottom display we have the team base for the X-Men. So this is also stackable, which is again one of its advantages. There are two versions of this particular acrylic case. One is flat surface, the one here below. Okay, so meaning that's good for team bases and for vehicles. And the other one is it has again uh, leveled rows. So that will be good for minifigures so that those at the back can still be seen despite having figures at front. So I cannot really see any disadvantage in this particular display case except for you can only put 8 minifigures in for this particular size, and that this particular display case is quite hard to get by here in the Philippines. Usually, I think I bought this from a Japanese specialties store in the mall, but it's really lucky if you find one nowadays. So if you know where to buy this in the Philippines, please inform me because I'm definitely looking for more of this display case. If you have space at home, then you can definitely buy a display cabinet, and you can use that to store your Heroclix figures. So I'm sharing with you now my display cabinet of most of my toys. Okay, of course, Heroclix would occupy a couple of floors or levels. Okay, but we do have some other merchandise here and there. Okay, so this is good because it's high quality store-like display cases. Okay, so and it fits big figures like the Tri-Sentinel, okay, and other Sentinels here. So it's good that way. But of course, the challenge is you need to have space and realty for it. And this is not as dust proof as you would imagine. So you have to clean up your figures once in a while, okay, to make sure that it doesn't accumulate dust. But again, if you want to display Heroclix in all its glory, I think this is one of the better options for you to go into. The last display case and most recent that I found is this one. So I think this is a display case made for matchboxes. Okay, so it has a sliding uh, plastic cover, so in that sense it's somewhat dust proof. Okay, it has 1 2 3 4 5 rows and 1 2 3 4 5 columns, and I think for each cell it can fit 2 minifigures. So you can see here it's not too tall per cell. Okay, so I bought this earlier from the mall, so we'll try to see how this how our Heroclix would fit in this particular display case. Another good thing about this display case is that at the back you can see that there are wall mountings that you can use. So if you want to display them, you can also do that. But for now, we'll just fill it up with figures. We'll fill it up with figures that we want to display our Wolverine figures and see how it looks like. Okay, so we finished putting in all our Wolverine related figures in this new display set. If you can notice, there are some figures outside, specifically these three. Unfortunately, we cannot fit them given the limited height of the cell. And you can notice some figures are lying down because again, they also will not fit given the height. But overall, I think this is a good display case. It was able to display almost all of my Wolverine figures, so that's a good thing. So what do you guys think? That's it for our video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and do share with me your ideas, as I mentioned, on how you store your Heroclix figures. Happy clicksing, guys!